Okay, so welcome everyone to our session number one, that is panel discussion, and the topic is technical writing interviews, where we will try to find out the ways what actually managers are looking for in the candidate and what actually the problems of candidates are probably. We see multiple scenarios. Some people are really happy, and some people have faced a lot of challenges. And when I say some people, it's not only the candidates who are facing challenges. Trust me, if you are one of the managers, you will know managers are also facing a tough time in finding the right candidate. So let's see what all could be the scenario and what all are the perspectives. A few before I introduce our panel speakers today. So a few housekeeping rules. In between, please do not unmute yourself. I mean, panel speakers can stay on unmute. Others, please don't unmute yourself in between. If you have questions which cannot wait, please use the chat box and type it. We will take it once we are done with our discussion. And so there will be Q&A session. In case there are a lot of questions, and since it's a conference, we can't stretch it, there is this global Telegram group. We invite you all, if you're not part of that, please join that and we will discuss those questions later. So don't feel your questions will remain unanswered, but we will certainly take all those questions. Some we will take here and some we will take outside. Let me introduce you to the panel. First of all, the four people that the photographs that you are seeing, it's when I see the profile, the experience overall is like 50 to 60 years plus overall. Everybody is here like 15 years plus experience, 20 years plus experience. So, and so I'm sure with their experience, you are going to be feeling much more benefited and see what's the current scenario is. So let me introduce the first panelist is Mugdha Bapat. So she is the Information Development Manager at Rocket Software, Pune. Siddharth Agrawal, he is the Deputy General Manager at Newgen Software, Noida. Then we have Padmija Gabita. She is the Information Engineering Manager at Avaya, Hyderabad. And then we have Mridula Menon, Senior Manager, Information Development, Grey Orange at Bengaluru. So welcome to all of you. And I'm going to be the host, so I won't waste time in introducing myself. So let's get started. So we have a few questions, all these people. So we have a few questions that I will keep on asking in between, and of course you can feel free to add your insights in addition, whatever you would like to have. So let's start with Padmija. Padmija, if we say, what's the focus area right now when you are recruiting? What do you think is the focus area? Is it writing style, knowledge of tools, processes, something else, or a mix of all? What's your thought? You are on mute, probably. No, not audible. You're not on mute, but you're not audible. You might need to just log back, Padmija, once. In between, let me move to Mridula. Would you take that, please?
Yes. So when we talk about hiring for tech writers, it is something like a broad topic that can have subcategories. Why I say this is because when we managers hire, at times it is a contingency hiring, sometimes it is backfilling, and sometimes it is temporary. Now, depending on that and also which team the tech writer will be associated with, the focus area depends on that. So suppose a tech writer or an information developer is getting hired for a developer as a developer documentation expert. Then in that case, the focus area will be definitely API documentation and also some basic knowledge of coding. But on the other hand, if the tech writer is being hired for a general, more product documentation, then the focus area would be definitely language skills and structured experience in structured writing. Having said that, I'm someone who wants to encourage freshers a lot. So in such cases, what will you think to be the focus area? In such cases, I would really like to see how the fresher has put up a resume, how what all trainings that person has attended, and if there is something different about the resume. Like many people, I know TechWriter Tribe hosts these excellent docs as code trainings, so, whereby you can actually create a profile online using GitHub. So things like that really add that extra edge to the tech writer. And coming back to the main focus, what I would like to see, I would say a combination of all the aspects that Puneet just mentioned.
Thank you, Mridula. Helps a lot. Siddharth, you have some other views or any?
Sorry, Puneet, can you hear me now?
Yes, Padmita. Now it's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, sorry about that.
We will come back to you.
Yeah.
Right. Siddharth.
So to add to what Mridula said, I totally agree with her viewpoint. So this totally depends. It highly depends on what role we are recruiting for. So those are the secondary skills. The basic part, even when we look at freshers, we really want that the writing skills are good. They can express themselves. They are good storytellers. They can set the right context when they are talking about anything, which is very important, where they are able to understand a subject and express it to a large number of audiences outside. And then we don't want them to write a lot. We want them to write very few words. We use whatever minimalism they can use over there. So I think if you look at a basic criteria, yes, it is not bad to expect that. You see, information around what is basic technical writing is available on Google. You can go and Google what is a document development lifecycle. You'll understand about it. You know about the process. What is agile? You'll get to know over Google. So I think it is good to expect people to learn about these things, have a basic understanding, and come and attend interviews, because then you understand that the person is really serious about the role. Ultimately, you need serious people to work with you, and people who are serious about working with you will surely do that basic uh, you know um, um, background learning, or they'll do that homework and come. One thing I see uh, you know in interviews is that candidates who come and attend interviews, you ask them, did you get a chance to look at a company's website? I see that 30% to 40% of candidates, they say, no, I did not get the time. And actually, that is hard to believe. We have mobiles with us, we have tabs with us, we are on the go in the cab and everywhere, and it's difficult to accept in today's time that no, I did not get a time to look at the website. So do your homework well. Sometimes try to impress the person with your homework, what you know about the organization. If you are an experienced writer, tell us about the product that you've been writing about. So I mean, like, yeah, a lot of this is also going to come later on, but yes, some things, these are some basic things in addition I would like to add that we really need.
Right. Very well said, Siddharth. And actually, when you were talking, you came to this point about the company's website. Like I said, we have groups and where we keep on having different kind of thoughts people keep sharing. One of this is often a point of discussion. And okay, in interviews they will say we didn't get time, but in internal discussion in chit chat, most of the people keep saying, "Why do I need to see website? I haven't got the job yet." Okay, so mindset needs to change certainly. Padmja, your input.
Yes, Puneet, I'm sorry about the microphone. So, what I'd like to say is when I interview, I think the first sample for an interviewer, the writing sample is the resume itself. So often, even after the resume gets shortlisted, when you look at the resume, it has so many mistakes. And when you're applying for a tech writing interview, I think it's very important, tech writing job, it's very important that your resume, is first up to date and it doesn't have grammatical errors, typos. I think that itself, when the resume has typos and grammatical errors, that itself is a major put off for the interviewer. So the second thing I would say is first read your resume and look at what you've done, and then come prepared for the interview. So most of the times I focus on more than the tools and the process. I focus on what they've written in the resume, and often it turns out that they've just written because they're all fancy tools and fancy technologies, but they've not actually worked on them. So this is another thing. So only write what you have actually worked on, what you have expertise on, not what you'd like to learn, or something that is now the in thing. So that is one thing, and the third is, of course, writing skills. That's the most important thing, more than beyond tools and the process, because tools and processes vary for each company. But I think writing skills are very important, and for a technical for the role, uh, and writing cannot be taught, and most companies don't have the bandwidth to teach writing. So that's a very important skill.
Thank you. Mukta. Mukta, would you like to add?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, all the three speakers have really summarized it well. It is a good mix that we keep looking for. It's not one thing per se, like, if your writing is good, you are hired. No. If you know the tools, you are hired. No. If your attitude is good, you are hired. No, not always. But yes, if you really look at a good mix, I would say that, based on uh, which level in your career you are at, the mix varies, like, the percentage of these things varies a little, depending on the career level which you are right now at. So sometimes I see that, for freshers, it is their passion for learning, what they have learned already. Are they clear about the skills, the basic skills that they have as a writer? Are they clear about it? Where do they need to improve? Do they have that clarity in mind? That definitely matters to me when I am interviewing freshers. Why are they choosing tech writing as their career? If that clarity is not there, I'm not very invested in their progress or their success. So that is definitely what I've found with freshers. In my current organization, I don't have the opportunity to actually hire freshers a lot. So that is definitely something that is like, something that is close to my heart, and I'm not getting that opportunity. So I try to make sure that I throughout the community, I do have some contacts with the freshers. I make myself approachable. They come to me, and I understand where they are going to, and I try to help them in that way. But I may not be hiring them. Why do I not hire them is because my current organization is extremely technical, and because of that, then it's like, setting up somebody for a failure if you are hiring somebody who doesn't know much about technology or tools. And that's where the tools part comes in. So if I'm hiring somebody with just 7, 8, 9 years of experience, I expect them to be really good at tools. I am willing to really invest myself in their writing skills, but not if they have nothing. If they show me something through their essay, something through their writing test, then yes, I know the grooming needs and I'm ready to groom them. But similar is the case with tools also. So if you have some similar experience on other tools, I'm okay with taking a chance. But that is where I'm saying that that good mix may differ from candidate to candidate. And as Mridula explained in her speech, like, how she said that if it's a contingency, or if it's a backfill, if it's a new person, a new requirement in the team, depending on that, the percentage of the mix changes a lot. That's what I would like to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think all four of you have covered a lot of things where we want also I'm sure that the participants here, whether they are experienced or freshers, probably they will take a cue that what exactly people look for. And it's not a one-way track where you just apply for jobs and somebody is bound to give you a call. And even if they give a call, then if you are not prepared, then they are supposed to be 100%, following the procedures. Like Siddharth and others also mentioned, there are some processes which you also, before appearing into the interview, you should also be serious about it. Show your seriousness, and I'm sure most of the.
We can't hear you, Puneet.
Puneet, you are on mute.
Am I on mute?
Yeah.
No, you
Why?
don't
No,
seem to
you
be
are
on
not
mute, but your
audible for
voice
us.
is.
Yeah.
Is it audible now?
It's fine now. It's fine
Yes,
now. Yes,
yes.
Puneet.
Oh my God. Teams, please don't play any games right now. Okay. So thank you, everyone. What I wanted to say, in case I wasn't heard, in short, that all these insights must have helped the freshers and experienced all who are here. That what are the expectations and what are the basic things basically they need to do. Of course, all the situations are not same, so there will be different parameters. But in general, I hope it's clear to all of you. Now, a very small thing, like when I see different kind of job openings, and people also come to us that, okay, what skill sets, what skill sets shall I learn? Okay, of course, one thing is clear. You are a technical writer. Technical writing should be the basic thing, so we are not talking about it. Apart from that, if we have to name the top three skills a senior technical writer or an experienced technical writer must learn, what will you all name them? Padmja, can you say top three skills?
Uh, yes, Puneet. So, for an experienced and a senior technical writer, definitely the first skill is writing. They should be very good at writing with the styles, with the different styles. And then the second skill is I would say the empathy with the audience, or with the reader, whoever is your audience, that you should be able to the as in, put yourself in the shoes of whoever is going to read your documentation and then write accordingly. Ability to even give inputs to the UI, so it can be more ease of use. And the third skill is, of course, manage your time. So as a technical writer, compared to the other roles in the software development cycle, I think they're more focused. They're either doing coding or they're doing testing. Here, I think we have several ad hoc tasks that are assigned. Sometimes we are writing a new topic, and that suddenly there's a defect that comes in that we will need to work on, or suddenly there's a request to edit an error message. So as a senior writer or a principal technical writer, you would have to learn to manage your time. So these are the three things I would say.
Thank you, Mugdha.
You said Mugdha or Mridula?
Mugdha.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I agree with Padmaja here. The first skill has to be writing, because I see that very few writers today, very few technical writers today are really good at writing and communication. So not just writing, but communication, as in it has to be structured writing, it has to be structured communication. You should know what medium you're using and how you are using it to the best of your abilities, to the best of the potential of that medium. That is definitely something that I definitely look at. So for example, one candidate had given me the CV in infographics, but the infographic was really bad. So then, you should not be trying out something when you are applying for a job. You can try it out, you can show it to your mentors, get your feedback, sharpen it, and then use it as one of your ammunition, but not when you're not ready for it. So that is definitely something that I see, that not just writing, but even communication and structured communication. At that, I'm very passionate about seeing structure in any type of messaging. So that is definitely the first number one for me. The second is research skills. Research as in your technology, your domain, the product that you are working on, the tools that you are using, everything, even the users, the community, the customers, the buyer and the user, various personas of the users, all that you have to be able to research on various things. And if a fresher feels that they're fresher because so they don't have to do any research, they don't have to show their research skills, that's very bad, because I'm their first audience. I'm interviewing them, I'm their first audience. My company is their first domain where they can do the research, as Siddharth rightly said. So that research skill, it has to be seen at various levels, and you have to be really a thinking mind. You have to be fully aware of what opportunities are in front of you, and then you should be really researching about every little thing. The third is, of course, what Padmaja said: efficiency, time management, effectiveness. Are you really showing all those skills and all that study in the output that you're creating? So is that outcome iconic at your level? It might change after 6 months also, that is all right, but right now, are you proud of what you're putting forward? So that also is something that I really look forward to, and those three skills definitely make you stand out. So communication, research, and efficiency, and passion to produce iconic outputs.
I think that both these points from Mugdha and Padmja cover a lot. And by the way, the questions are open. So on these comments or anything, if you have questions, please feel free to just write your question there. We will take it up. Mridula, I have another question for you. What kind of attitude and aptitude do you look for if the candidate has matched the required experience and knowledge?
Okay, thank you for that question, because this is a very interesting aspect of a candidate I look for in today's world, when we are working remotely, and probably in future also a large part of our time will be spent in working remotely with somebody who is located somewhere else, across the globe. So their empathy becomes very, very important. And when I'm talking about empathy, it is not only in the writing, but also when you're talking to, say, a product manager across, several miles away, how you are being able to connect with that person. What I have, very commonly seen among writers is that they approach a product manager only when they need information. And when you do that, that connection doesn't happen. When you know who is your stakeholder, try to reach out to them ahead of time and build that relationship. And and then it becomes much more easier to get information or any kind of support. And coming to your next question about aptitude, well, I will definitely look for writing skills, much like how Mugdha said, because that is non-negotiable. And another is how much that person is willing to learn, because I have seen in my own team, when we introduced DAP, there were some writers who were totally, they posed a resistance that, we won't be able to do this. So that is where, that growth mindset is very, very important for me. And that is where the aptitude also comes, that how much you are willing to learn and how much you are willing to implement what you already know. So many a times we are bounded by boundaries, saying that, okay, we can only do this much. Don't be, restricted by that. Try out and be fearless in trying out, and be ready to fail also. Feel safe in that zone also, so that you can learn from your failures. But I feel this, attitude to try something new, to learn something new, I would really, go ahead and encourage that.
Thank you. I think that should make one thing very clear to everyone, that okay, attitude and aptitude matter a lot these days. Just your resume or your experience. I mean, let's be very realistic about it. Today, as an individual, whether we are technical writers or developer, doesn't matter. We also, when applying for job, we also look for empathy in the company. What are the facilities? We are not just looking for the salary anymore. So try to think from that perspective. And that will help, and a lot of things depend on that. So Siddharth, would you like to add something here?
Yes, Puneet. What I would like to add is that now we have a candidate. When we talk that we know the person has the right experience and he has the right knowledge. And then we are looking at two aspects, attitude and aptitude. What is the attitude? how do you judge? While you interview people, we need to make sure. I know that some managers or all managers, they do have questions that are not technical, but they rather try to drill down a person's approach to do the work. I think that those type of questions, right? How, for example, how do you make sure what you have written is very well written? Now, this is not a technical question, but this is a approach related question. Okay. So attitude is something which is, with regards to approach, the kind of behavior you exhibit while you have a discussion, even during the interview. Do you have the right listening skills? Do you talk? Do you think aloud? Do you, speak in between? Do you interrupt? Uh, yeah, how do you, how you solve certain problems? So those are things that you can, judge with the attitude. Maybe you try to understand, tell us about, problems that you have solved. Great issue that you solved at work. You're proud about, an issue that you solved for your team, for everyone. So that shows, the kind of attitude they have. When it comes to aptitude, it is really important to first understand if a person, knows about his surroundings, about his environment. So when you ask a tech writer to explain their product, it is not only the technical product that we want to understand. We also want to understand, what are the business use cases around it. Do you know who your customers are? How they use your product? And within your organization, how do you work? How do you join different elements? You have a Jira, you have a Bugzilla in place. Do you use it for managing tasks? Have you used it to log bugs? Do you understand the user experience of your product, the UI interface of your product? So how well connected are you with different small elements in your work environment? I think that is something which would be aptitude. So how much are you integrated? So that is more of integration and involvement in your work. So I think these are some aspects that I would like to evaluate to understand the attitude and aptitude of a candidate who has the right experience and the right level of knowledge.
Wonderfully summed up. And although we have a lot of questions, and as I am sure, like me, all of the participants here can figure out, it's getting more interesting. But of course, we are running short of time, so we will curb our question. But I just have one question where I think it will help others. So the question is: many jobs, still many technical writers find it tough to get a job. You also might have. So, as a hiring manager, what would be your advice? How to self-analyze and work on the improvement area? If we can have it, some quick answers. Mugdha, can we start with you?
Sure. So, first of all, if there are many jobs and you are not getting what you want, try to see which stage of recruitment you are getting stuck at more often. Is it the applications? Are you applying at the right places or not? Is your CV does it speak for you? Third might be, are you really doing good at the tests or the interviews? Where is it that you are facing music? So that is something that people should analyze. And second thing that I really feel is very important for technical writers today is to know whether their strengths are more on the technical side or on the communication side. Are you a good communicator and then technology is coming second in your mind and brain, or is it that you understand technology really well and then you're communicating about it? So if you don't know what your strength is, then you'll not be able to play to your strength. So try to bring that forward and then try to groom yourself on the other aspect. That is something that I find missing in most of the technical writers. They're neither clear whether they're focusing, they should be focusing more on technology or they should be focusing more on communication. They don't know what exactly is lagging a little behind in their portfolio, and that is where I feel that people should focus on, and they will be able to apply at the right places with the right CV, and then they'll be able to do good in the exams or tests that the interviewing panel takes.
Thank you, Mugdha. Uh, so on this very question, I would also like to take the view of Siddharth.
Yes. So I think since we are helping writers in this, very important what Mugdha mentioned, right? You should see where you are applying firstly. Is it the right place? Is that job for you? Go through the job description very well. I know, and that is a fact that 10 years back, most of the technical writing JDs looked similar. Not today. And I know that, the pain that managers take to draft a, right job description, because they are interested in finding the right candidate. They really, that is the first step to of effort that they make. So why are you getting rejected? Are you firstly, does your profile really match the job description? Don't apply everywhere. If you get rejection multiple times, that could, bring you down on your, self motivation. Don't apply everywhere. It is not necessary you apply everywhere. The industry is different, the requirements are different. Apply to places where your skills match. If your skills don't match at least 60 to 70% of the jobs, don't target the 30% of jobs. Then wait, enhance your skills, learn, go to some, forums, enhance your skills, go to discussions, get the skills that are, there in most of the jobs. Learn about yours, try to grow yourself. Other thing is, look at where you're facing rejections, at what stage. Is your CV not getting selected? Are you not getting interview screening calls? Means there is something wrong with a CV. You need to, add more keywords. You need to draft your CV well. You need to revisit your CV, get it reviewed. Are you facing rejections in the, later stage? Maybe there are, things you need to build on your personality part. If you're passing everything on the technical part, build on your personality. Maybe there is something, with the attitude part of question, work approach part of question, that is not working well. If you are failing in the between, like the middle of, the recruitment stage during technical interviews, maybe you're not giving out the right answer. So analyze it, and don't apply everywhere. That is one suggestion I would like to give to, tech writers. The market is different. If you get rejected in one organization, you will not be able to apply over there for the next 6 months. But if people remember how you got rejected, maybe, that 6 months would get extended to 1.5 years. So don't limit your, avenues. Learn, and, do your homework well. That is something that I would like to, suggest, in addition to, what Mugdha said is very important. But this is what I would like to add to it.
Thank you, Siddharth. So yeah, we do have more questions, but I think now we have already run or taken 5 minutes more from the Q&A session. So sorry, I won't be sorry, or maybe it's a relief for all of you. So I won't be asking more questions. Let's go. I'm going to the chat box and I'll start with some questions here so all of you can pitch in, and let's try to keep the answers as short as possible in the interest of time. So there is a question from Xavier, and I would like Mridula to take this up. Do you hire people to fill the role right away, or do you want to ensure that there is room for growth for the person you are hiring? How do you view the hiring process?
So, when you say, do you hire for a role right away? I didn't get the clarity there. I mean, when there is a requirement, see, there are certain things there because people are moving out quite a bit in this period of time. Many a times it is a fill position. So yes, when we hire the person, we want that person to touch the ground running because this is a small company. But in bigger companies like Oracle or Salesforce, you have more area to, you have more time to get accustomed. But when you are joining a startup company, you have to be mentally prepared that it is going to be much more faster. So if I have understood your question correctly, then yes, we do hire people who match the job requirement exactly as Siddharth and Mugdha said. But at the same time, we do extend extensive training to the person so that they can, start contributing at the earliest. I hope I answered your question there.
Thank you, Mridula. We will move on to the next question. So, Padmaja, if you can take this. What are your views on long resume? Do you use the length of resume as an indicator?
Oh, definitely a no. So long resumes for technical writing interviews or any role is definitely a no-no. So especially, I've seen very long resumes, especially from organizations like service-based. They've probably worked on 10 different projects in 2 years, and they put in information about each of those projects, which are not really required or of interest to the interviewer. So keep it short. Just focus on, what are the probably the challenges. I mean, in your previous roles, what are those complex challenges you had, and what are those initiatives you have done, and then how complex your documentation was, and how have you contributed to the UI. So keep it to that. You don't really have to describe each of those projects you worked on, what tools you worked on, whether it's on site, off site. All those information is not required. So keep it short, and it saves a lot of time for the interviewer.
And that reminds me, if I can add, the date of birth, your gender, your home address, your passport number, please, those are very personal things. Nobody is interested in that. Never add that.
And Grammarly is not a skill. Please don't add that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there is an interesting question. Like we talked about attitude and aptitude, but here a bit more of details. So maybe Muktaha, you can take this. How you judge the behavior of the candidates in interview or the attitude?
Yeah, so I generally go and ask questions which are probably something that the candidate has not prepared for. So uncharted territories, like if I want to find out that. So if I get a feeling that this person might be really very impatient and may not be able to conduct good SME interviews or work with a lot of people, I try to ask them about their biggest people challenge. So when it is like they have to think about, they have to recollect, and I patiently wait till they figure out what they want to talk about. I wait for like 5 minutes. I'm okay with it. Let them figure out what was their biggest people challenge in their life, not in their career, in their life. Even as a kid, if you had some challenge where you faced difficulty in making friends with somebody and you had to, or you had to convince somebody about you being good, how did you do it, or something like that. And then they start thinking about it. Even if I don't hire a candidate, and if I make the candidate think about their own career, their own skill set, I feel that, okay, I have not wasted that half an hour. It might not be good for Rocket, but it is good for Rocket in the long run, because then we have a network of people outside of Rocket who think about my company, think about the interview that they had here, and that will guide them, at least, at a very minute level. It might guide them in making good career choices, in acquiring the right skills for the job. So yeah, uncharted territories. I take them to that, and then I wait for them to react to it and respond to it. And that also tells me a lot, like if the person is reacting or the person is responding in their responses, that also tells me a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mukta. And I hope, Vishakha, that answers your question also, where you ask for how about the candidate's people skills. So basically, it covers that also. Okay, so we will take up, and Raghavendra, your question on Agile, I'm sorry, I'm not taking up there to the panel, but yes, Agile for experienced writers, especially in software documentation, it is mandatory. You can consider it mandatory. People will ask for it. Samir, there is a question from Samir and Siddharth, if you can take this up. How to change from one profession, for example, mechanical to software? Siddharth, you're on mute, it looks like. Am I audible?
Yes.
You are. Yeah.
Siddharth, are you there?
Yeah, he's on mute.
Okay. Okay, so anybody else would like to take
Okay,
this?
am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 So
Sorry,
change from one
sorry for
profession.
that. Okay,
How to change from one
so
profession to
this is a
another?
good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, acquire skills, I would say. There is software. If you want to come from mechanical to software, software applications are used by people across the world. software applications that are developed by engineers would be used by banking people, would be used by MBAs, would be used by different people around the world. Now, these are always, this is not something very complex. But if you want to come into software technical writing, firstly, you should be comfortable using the applications. You should be able to think as a user. So if you are a mechanical writer, you already know what to explain to the user. You already have good writing skills. You know how to explain concepts. All you need to do is understand how software works and learn a little bit. Try to develop skills on some software requirements. Now, for example, writing API documentation is specific to the software industry, product-based organizations. So you really need to develop that skills. So I would say upskilling is something that would help you get into or change your profile from mechanical writer to a software writer. So upskill yourself. That is my suggestion. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And just to add to that one line, I mean, basically the crux of what Siddharth is trying to say is, you want to get into software. So software writing skill has its own, requirement. If you are a technical writer in aerospace or somewhere else, that may have its own requirement. So find out what is required and get upskilled. That's it. Thanks. Yeah.
I just have one point to make,
Yeah.
in addition to whatever discussion we had, is that sometimes rejection happens at a more senior level. And, when a candidate gets interviewed by higher authorities, it may not feel like an interview, but actually they are analyzing the more of the attitude part of the candidate. So if the candidate feels, okay, my technical thing went great, my spoken thing went great, but still I got rejected, maybe somewhere, up the line, there might have been a mismatch of expectations.
Thank you. So, okay, there is an interesting question from Jesse here. What are the expectations from someone who is coming back into the workforce after a break in tech writing? Actually, I was going to ask this from Mridula only. So, Mridula, would you like to take that up? You're on mute, I guess.
I myself came back after 5 years of break. So what I did is that instead of focusing on what will be my CTC, I focused on what kind of project I will be in. And I ensured that I'm focusing more on a job role where I can get to learn a lot, because in 5 years, technology went from A to Z maybe. So my first priority at that point of time when I joined back after a gap of 5 years was not the CTC part of it, but the learning part of it. And once I felt that, yes, I have put all the hard work, I have put all the effort to learn and catch up on the technology, that is when I started, negotiating better and looking for better opportunities where I can use what I have learned. That was my strategy, because I took the break. So I saw it on the chat and I really wanted to answer that. Thank you, Puneet, for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, and this question often comes to me also. People keep on talking. Two things I will say. People coming after break. It can be a woman, it can be a man also, okay? Now, second thing, freshers or people coming from different industry to other industry, like Siddhartha answered. Just find out what the current trends are, what the current things are, and probably there are groups. Apart from groups, LinkedIn is a very big thing. Just go and find out the JDs and try to prepare. Basic thing is preparation. Prepare, I mean, like you go to market after preparation only. So then do the same thing here also. Okay. Okay.
Also, they can go for a mentor on LinkedIn. So many senior writers are ready to mentor others, and please go ahead and approach people and ask them if they can mentor you, and that may be path breaking for you.
Certainly, mentorship certainly helps a lot. Yes, Mumta.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about mentoring a lot, because this is one thing that we don't understand, the power of mentoring. I feel that so many people mentored me. They are still mentoring me to be a better professional. I think that we have to be ready for even receiving that mentoring. And you should, at any point of your career, you should have at least 2-3 people that you look up to. They may not know that they are your mentors, but you should really, learn from them. You can learn from them like an Ekalavya, like, you are learning from them just by observing them. You can also learn from them by directly contacting them. You'll be surprised, you'll be amazed that people are willing to give a lot back to the community, because that's how this community has thrived in India. In India, there was no proper formal training for tech writers, but still so many people came into this field. They are helping each other grow. That's the power of networking and mentoring. So yeah, at every stage in your career, you should at least have like 3 mentors, and I still have them in my life. So I think that's a very good point, Mridula, that you made, that, when you came back to work, your first focus was to just get a good job, get a good role, and not the CTC. I'm sure your manager must be invested in making sure that your CTC gets matched. So that's how generally your mentors are, and hope everyone gets good mentors.
Thank you. That helps a lot. So, okay.
Puneet, I just want to add about, people coming back from the break. I've hired some people and they've turned out to be the best because they are more committed, they are eager to learn, eager to grow compared to the, people who've been continuing their career, who people who don't have a break. So I think, especially for interviewers, they should take that, risk and hire people coming back from a break, and it's really worth it. Yeah. That's my two
Thank
cents.
you. Okay, so yeah, Siddharth, you want to add something? Okay, you got 30 seconds.
Yes. So something that I would like to add to the overall topic is that, it is a dream for a manager to find 100% match to the JD or to the, the role that they are expecting. So generally managers, most of the managers, they end up compromising somewhere between 65 to the 80% of what they get. That is in the general scenario. So it is not that managers are not flexible. Most of the leaders are flexible. They give room for development. They are open for people to come in, learn, grow, upskill, add value to their own profile. So I think, this is not something that should be taken advantage of, but it is not very difficult. If you are really interested in getting through a particular organization and interview, stay focused, try to do whatever is required, do your hard work, and things will fall in place, because managers do not find 100% match to what they are looking for.
Okay, so now we have already run ahead 4 minutes. And so, first of all, I would like to thank you, the panel. I mean, it was really interesting point, and I'm sure people will feel very happy about it. And for those of you whose questions we could not take, so join the Telegram group, or else I will certainly we will email these questions to all our 4 panelists so that they can respond, and we will respond to you in the email within, say, 2 days or so. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you Mugdha, Mridula, Siddharth, and Padmita for joining. I'm sure you all also want to talk a lot right now, but due to the constraint of time, we have to close this session. So thank you all for joining, and thank you participants for
Thank you.
asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. Thanks to everyone. Mugdha, Padmaja, Mridula. Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. And so all of you know that the social media contest is on, so that all these details are there in the chat box. In case you want to use, please feel free. So overall, we will make a count, and it will go ahead. And so now we time to move to session number 2, where the hosters are brilliant team Mumbai of Shrutika, Mugdha, uh, uh, and Parikshit. So over to team Mumbai.
Hi Puneet. I'm sorry, am I spotlighting you accidentally?
Or no?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Slides, right?
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Mugdha, and I'm going to be your host for this session on digital adoption platforms, which is going to be conducted by Arunn Shampath. Before we get started, just a couple of things. Request everyone to keep their mics on mute. If you have any questions during the session or after, kindly post them in the chat box. We'll take them up at the end of the session. And as Puneet already mentioned, there's an exciting contest awaiting at the end of the session, which will be based on the session presentation. So kindly stay tuned. So with all the setup in place, let's get introduced to Arun. Arun started as a design engineer, transitioned into technical writing, and has been creating multifaceted content for over 9 years. At Irwin by Quest, he has been instrumental in setting up their product's digital adoption journey using WhatFix. WhatFix is a leading digital adoption tool. For the past 2 years, he has been creating in-app context-sensitive help and transforming his customers' onboarding and help accessibility experience. Apart from his day job, Arun is also an avid photographer and a traveler. He represents the young technical writers who are hungry to grab more knowledge, explore new technologies, and then share it with the community. So over to you, Arun. We welcome you to TWT.
Hi, Mugdha. Thank you. All right, so we'll get started right away. Let me share my screen and all right. Hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, Arun.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
So
we can see
let's
it.
get started. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are going to talk about digital adoption platform and how it drives our organization where when they try to adapt to different technologies or you could say also different applications using DAP. So apart from this, in this session, we are also going to talk about how actually a digital adoption platform works and how it is integrated with the underlying application and some real-time use cases as well of that. And also we're going to talk about what are the different types of content that you can create using a DAP and also some limitations about it. Most significantly, we're going to talk about analytics as well as, our world is driven by data, and analytics is another important part, like where we'll be able to get more insights about how a content is being used by the customers and like where they get stuck and all those things. All right. So first thing is like, what is a digital adoption platform? So it is another software layer that is going to be above your application that will facilitate digital adoption and it'll let the user to meet their end-to-end needs from an application. So also these digital adoption platforms will allow you the user to guide from one place to another, and it enables user to reach places in an application faster using walkthroughs or other in-app content based on organization flows. And also they'll be able to discover new places that will generate learning for the for the customers where they haven't had access before. It also elevates user experiences. So with that, the user doesn't get stuck at some point. They'll be able to navigate from one place to another very easily. So it's going to be a journey-based experience for a customer, and it is always consistent with the with an application. So what it is for a digital, what is DAP for technical writers? So this would give writers an opportunity to shape and influence the customer experience on the product, and it also based on the product, and also there are a lot of limitations with the traditional documentation scenarios, and that also can be mitigated using DAP. The first point is going to be like working on a new platform. Yes, it is always challenging and it is always interesting to learn new things. So if we are moving away from the traditional point of traditional documentation to DAP. So this transition is going to be like really interesting. So that is one. And second one is you'll have to start learning a different writing style. So I'll also show you an example of like how this thing is, how like a very small example, like how traditional documentation and how DAP would look. Apart from that, it also provides innovative user experiences for the content creator. For example, to create a seamless content experience, like we'll have to design the flows in a certain way that it keeps the user going and keeps navigating to places where they'll have to get to. So one example that I could say is like DAPs are third-party tools, right? So we won't be able, those tools won't be able to won't work perfectly as we expect it to work in our application. So we'll have to come up with some solutions where there are right-click situations, but the DAP tool won't provide right-click situations. So we'll have to come up with a workaround so that the flow will be like working seamless, and it ends the use it meets the user goal from completing a task. Okay, so this is one example that I would like to show you where like you see a traditional documentation on a bookshelf and with DAP. So we could reduce a lot of steps with that, where the user has to stick to multiple tabs, one for the reading the steps, and the other browser tab where the application is, and you'll have to keep doing the steps. So with the app, you can reduce a lot of steps, and also going back to the documentation with the different tab, and you have on-screen help. And in this example, you have to stick to a new writing style as well. And there are a lot of digital adoption platforms in the market. Have listed few top digital adoption platforms. That one is Intercom, WhatFix, Pendo, WalkMe, and also there are more dApps available on the market. And in this session, we are going to talk about WhatFix. So we've been working on WhatFix for more than 2 years right now. So before going into what kind of content that we'll be able to create using this dApps, we are going to talk about benefits and use cases. So first benefits is accelerating your technology value. So when an end user has to do some tasks very quickly, so they'll be able to do things faster than we expected. So with this, for example, you have multiple applications in your organization, and where in a day-to-day life, end user customer has to use multiple applications, and there are different procedures in one application, and there are another in a different application. In those cases, these walkthroughs or maybe a pop-ups, a guided help would enable a customer to do things much more easier than referring to the traditional documentation and going back and forth. Second point is performing complex tasks easily with step-by-step guidance. So, so you get on-screen help where you'll be able to just like the pop-ups will appear right where the end user, the customer needs help, and with that, they don't have to keep moving from the traditional documentation tab and to the actual application. So you get the guidance right there. Third point is reducing support tickets and the involved cost. Yes. So, I can give you an example with this, like where, when a customer is stuck at a point, the first thing he tries to do is, log a support ticket. And then with that support ticket with that support ticket, there'll be a lot of iterations where they'll have to go back and forth. And that also involves cost. Getting a support engineer and picture. So this also can be mitigated using dApps. Fourth point is improving customer experiences. So with all this, the customer experience is always seamless. You get help on demand right where you want it. Next point is like assisting user and input clear data. So with the help of the types of content that you can put in an application, you'll be able to get more cleaner data. For example, like when a user has to fill out a form, most of the people don't know what kind of data has to be added into a specific form, specific field. So with this thing as a point, you could probably add a smart tip or any other type of content that I'll be explaining it later, so that the user will be able to input what exact data that specific field should have. So that input, so with that, the organization would have a much more cleaner data to process. And the last thing is going to be reducing the training efforts. So in today's world, like, you could host a session where um, you could host a session or like just like how we have right now, we could host a session and teams train the customers like how to get things done, and like how to make a better to be more productive using a new application. So in this perspective, we can also say that like not everybody will be there in that specific training session. So rather than that, you can adapt this platform in an application that will enable users to train them right there, and at the same time, like if they have missed the training session in the actual. So next is something like we're going to talk about some real-time use cases. Uh, so use cases where DAP has been like one of the best when they try to adapt in different sessions. So first one is customer onboarding. Um, so with customer onboarding, like there are lots of things. We could take an example of where like if you are hiring multiple people in an organization, and they have been given with an app where they're allowed to input their user data and upload documents, and there are lots of process. And also with that, the user has to use different applications to complete their onboarding. With this, with DAP, you will be able to onboard their customers very easily. The steps will be very self-explanatory, and that will guide a customer or a user to get them onboarded very easily. The second point is again the employee trainings that I mentioned earlier. So you can impose a lot, amazing employee trainings with dApps, where you'll be able to add a task list. It's another content type. Like you'll be able to add a task list where you can make sure the user has to uh, take the specific trainings or in walkthrough to get to know things about the application much better. So third point is going to be a digital transformation. So this is another interesting places where a DAP has performed so well. So when I talk about a digital transformation, it's about if when an organization is trying to migrate from one application A to an application B. So in that perspective, a digital transformation comes into a picture. So you in an application A, you've been doing this for years and you know how things work, and all of a sudden there is going to be a change. So you are migrating from one point to another point. So the application for a customer is absolutely new. So in that cases, so you could organize some trainings, you could organize some flows that can be delivered to the customers, where you don't need to train them separately, like to how to get things done, uh, or also to accomplish a specific task. So this is another important use case, the digital transformation. The last part is it reduces the support tickets. We just talked about it, like how it reduces the top support ticket. The it with this DAPs can be uses context sensitive as well. So right where in your page, place where you are in the application, depending upon that, you will be able to get the content related to that as well. All right. So next thing is that the types of content that you'll be able to create using dApp. So there are lots of content that you'll be able to create. First thing that is going to be about flows. Okay, so flows are like it's a step-by-step help pop-ups that will help an user to complete an objective-oriented task. Not just that, you'll be able to accomplish a lot of complex tasks, so that end user does not need to remember the steps every time, or he don't need to refer to the traditional documentation method to complete the task. uh, the second point is going to be branching different flows. For this is another complex way of creating flows where a couple of flows where like there are multiple points. For this, I'll give you an example. On the left hand side of the screen, bottom of the screen, you'll be able to see a flowchart kind of thing, where the user has to start, and um, there are like multiple things involved, and like the flow will navigate from one place to another. So to give you a better example, um, you know um, considering an application where there are lots of databases listed, and you'll have to connect to a database where there are like three databases, and three databases will have different connection parameters to get connected to. But the starting point is going to be a common place where you'll have to reach to the place where there is a list of there is list of databases. For that, you could create a flow uh, until the place where to reach the list of databases. And since I told you like there are going to be different parameters for each databases, you could create a separate flows for that, and then you can link it based on the type of a database that you select. So when you do that, when the user is trying to create a connection for a database number two, so all you need to do is like select the database two, and the flows or the guidance specific to that database will take over, and then you'll be able to complete that flow seamlessly, and you'll be able to meet the requirements. Also, you will be able to set multiple conditions for the flows to work. Um, for example, like the specific flow has to be a user specific flow, or maybe this is a common flow. Based on that, you could set conditions for whom the specific flow is applicable. And also you could determine a tooltip position based on the UI. It's always, we'll show you more about this later. And also you could set up more step completion rules, even that we'll be discussing next, and create focused tours using spotlights. So spotlights are something like, as you see in this example. So this is a GIF. Um, Spotlights is like, you will be able to blur out the rest of the things, and then you'll be able to only concentrate on the specific item where the user has to concentrate on. So this in this GIF, there are like five steps. You could call it a flow, or also you could call it a walkthrough based on the type of content that you put in. So I would call this a walkthrough, but still you can make this using a flow where I'm trying to highlight the list of things that is specifically important in the in this example. Okay. So next is going to be like, we're gonna talk about how to create a flow. Uh, for that, okay, let me just pull in another this one. Okay. All right, so this is going to be the WhatFix widget. So you can access a WhatFix widget using this Chrome extension, and it's very easy. Very easy. All you need to do is download a Chrome extension. You could see on the right top corner for a WhatFix editor. So this specific extension is available for most of the famous browsers in the market. So I'm also going to show very quickly how to create a flow, and also explain the list of things that are available when you create a flow. So creating a flow is very simple. All you need to do is be on the specific URL where you have to create a flow, and you could name a flow. You could say flow, and you could add a step. So you'll be able to select multiple elements, or like you'll be, when you go hover over the things on the application, you'll be able to see a blue line, where blue box for which the specific the step has to be created. So now I'm going to create a step for you say like for the entire search box. You'll have to hover over it and click. So, and then next pop-up will tell you, will ask you to add a purpose, and also describe what you could do with this. So I would say this is a search box. Okay, so these are the basic things. This is the first step of creating a pop-up for the chosen element in the application. So when you keep scrolling down, you'll be able to choose the position of the tooltip. So as I showed you in the slide before, you'll be able to position this specific, the pop-up either on the left-hand side top or right-hand side bottom, middle, and all these things. So you can set up a lot of step completion rules when these things would explain like when a step should end. Uh, by default, it is selected by on the click of next. So with this, when you're selecting this, when you click this next on the pop-up, only then the step would complete. Um, Also, you could have multiple combinations. There are a lot of completion rules that you'll be able to select. So one is like, so this is, as we see, this is going to be a search box. So I don't want, logically, we don't need to use the second option because I'm going to enter a keyword and then like I'll hit enter and then like the results are going to show up. So with considering this is going to be a walkthrough. You don't need to use the selected element or all the other items. And also there are step completion rules where whether you wanted to complete this specific step automatically or when you wanted to auto click and then move to another step, and all those things. So if you or you can also make the step optional. And as I was telling you, there are going to be a lot of display rules also, like where the specific flow and how do you want this flow to be presented. So you have multiple options. You can make sure this appears on a specific URL or when a specific window variable is available, or when then selected element or a text is selected element or a text is or a text option. So I'm going to quickly show you like what will happen when I select an URL. So you have, again, like when you select URL, you have multiple options. If you want this URL to be like very specific and or maybe you feel like it should have only the some part of the URL should be applicable. So you can choose all these information here and then you can set up. And with that, you'll be also able to add multiple rules with and or operators. So I'm going to cancel this one. So earlier that I was talking about branching multiple branching flows from one point to another. So you'll be able to create branchings from here as well. So you could say this specific when the one good example I mentioned earlier is like when you have multiple databases, and then you could say when if the specific selected element is like number one, you'll be able to branch to a different flow using that item, and then you'll be able to attach a content here. So with this, you can attach the content like the flow to database one or flow to database two or three, and then click OK. When the end user reaches that point and clicks that specific option, like either one, two, or three, he'll be able to branch out to another flow. So I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so this is the spotlight mode that we spoke about, where if you want to draw on user attention now on a specific the highlighted UI element or a feature in the application. Okay, now if you click add step, the step one will be added. Can you see this is how the preview is? Okay, and then I'm also going to add another step. So we'll talk about adding. Okay, we'll say creating and we'll navigating to the images page. So usually this takes up like automatically if you take text gets filled, but you can leave it as is for now. And then I'll say here it's again going to be the same. You will be able to determine the application. So in this case, WhatFix will automatically consider the places where you will be able to add the position of the pop-up. So these gray areas are somewhere like where you won't be able to add because there is no enough space to accommodate this pop-up. So you'll get to have only a possible locations where you wanted to add. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to click add. So that's it. So right now we added two steps. So as I told you earlier, like this was a search box. So I wanted the step to complete when I click next, but this is a button and you'll be able to, WhatFix automatically identifies what kind of an action autocomplete step completion rules it should take. So here you see instead of selecting a next button, you'll be able to select you'll be able to click on the element and the specific flow would end. So let me save this and I'm going to show you how to run through this. So this is going to be the snippet of like the flow that we created. You'll be able to see the number of steps that are here. And when I click preview, can you see the flow? The flow directly, you'll be able to see the flow here. And you can, if you wanted to search, you can search here. And if you wanted to go to the next step, all you need to do is click next, and it directly jumps to the flow that we added there. And when you click it, the flow would end, giving a feedback. If you're okay with this, yes, you can click S, and then you can send a feedback. All right. So this is how you create a flow, and that was an example I just wanted to show you guys.
Arun, just a quick question from
And
Kalpana.
the next important,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, she was asking, can you show the flow output for branch rules?
So to create a branch, it will take a lot of time, so we won't be able to show that today.
No worries, Arun, no worries.
Yeah,
Kalpana,
because
you can reach out to Arun,
yes, you
offline.
can. I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
able to
yeah.
show you that. Um, all right. So we have created flows, and also in this previous slide, I told you like there are lots of there are types of content that you'll be able to create. How an end user will be able to use access all these flows or the links of videos that you wanted to create. So that is going to be a self-help. So this specific self-help widget will be available on the application screen. And can you see the on the GIF on the right-hand side? When you click the self-help widget, you'll be able to see the list of flows that are applicable for that specific um, uh, modulation. And also, I told you, right, it is context sensitive. When you are in a different part of the application, only the content specific to that part of the module will be available in the self-help. So, so to sum up, a self-help will be an the collection of flows or videos or links that we have created for the customers on demand. The contents in the self-help can be reused multiple times. The same content can be used to train the end users as well. So that is all about self-help. So next is going to be task lists. So task list is another important part of DAP, where we use a task list to train the employees or a customer in the like in a major sector. The task list will provide user engagements to perform a task, or maybe where an end user has to complete a task mandatorily to get done with the training in an application or more. This also promotes user education, towards training or getting to a goal. And also this task list can be used for onboarding an user as well, as we discussed the same in the benefit section. These will provide also information about the task progress. For example, you have n number of tasks. You'll say 5 tasks in a task list where the end user has to complete. The task list will also show you the progress and the pending tasks. And it at timely, there are some settings where the task list will like start nudging the users to get this task done or the assigned process. So here, can you see on the left-hand side, the typical task list is on on the green color box, on the bottom, sorry, the circle. So here, when you click this, the user will be able to see the list of tasks that we have assigned for the user. And this task list also can be specific to user, where the user can, specific to user, like for example, user A has only like one task he has to complete, and it can be, and user 2 needs to complete 2 or 3 tasks. So even that can be designed and it can be assigned users to that. So on the left hand side, the GIF will show the task progress like which shows like what 2 tasks are still pending, and the second task sign into your account is like still blurred, grayed out, because it is in progressive task list, where sequential task list, where the user has to complete the first task to get and then like you'll be able to start with the second task. So on the right hand side is another example, like once you're done with the first task, there is a task bar that would show the progress, and once you're done with the first task, the second task is now enabled and the end user will be able to access that task. So with this, you can go ahead with complete with this task list. User will be able to. The task list gives you a lot of possibilities, onboarding a user or maybe training your users, and the application is limitless, and based on organization's requirement, you can implement task lists. Okay. All right. So next thing is going to be pop-ups. This is something you guys have seen it a lot. For example, if you are installing an application on your phone, you get a random pop-up saying that we have this, we have done that. So that will give information about the user, everything they need to know before getting started on application or on a new feature. So with this pop-ups, it is not limited to new feature. You can do a lot with this pop-up. The first thing is like, as I said, a new feature announcement. And apart from that, you can also notify the users with the application downtime, and you can attach surveys and then make sure the end users have to complete, the customers has to complete a survey that is being attached using pop-up. And you could also add information about software version upgrade, or you could tell them like their software, the application is going to be upgraded in a specific day or time. If you wanted to ads, even that can be created using pop-ups. And later then you'll be able to link to any supporting content. So even pop-ups are very limited, where you could add only a small amount of information to prevent overwhelming the customers. And at end of the pop-up, you'll be able to link to the more supporting content where they'll have access to it. So here, so this is how a task list works on the left-hand side. So this is a carousel pop-up that we made for the example. You could add a number of slides based on your requirements. For this example, I've added only 3. This is called an carousel pop-up, and this is most widely used. So this will add multiple slides, and you will be able to cover a wide variety of information. One example that I could think of is like when you're announcing a new feature in your application, it's not just one, it's going to be multiple features that you wanted to showcase and that the developers have developed. And for the customers, we'll be able to give them in different slides, and where they'll be able to concentrate more about one feature in one slide and keep going. And if you see, there is a click me button at this end, you see. So at that place, you'll be able to add or link to an more additional content where the user have to refer to. And also you could set up a predefined action where you could also say you don't need to link a content to that button. You could say just okay, and this pop-up disappears. All right. So now the other thing that is that helps us to show what is new feature or to grab more attention on a specific feature or parts of the application is beacons. So beacons are like interactive buttons, like attention grabbing UI pointers that will that you can see it on the top right corner where there is a small red dot and just there is another dot above it. So you have multiple choices to choose from, like how this specific beacon should look. And this will be like this will grab attention for the users, like you will be able to see a red dot where user eyes will like directly go to that place, and we'll also trying to notify that this specific option is something new, or we have a lot of things in that option, or that's what they've introduced. They also ensure that the application features are highlighted to the customers and they do not miss any important communications as well. Okay. Yes. So when we talked about these pop-ups and beacons, the next important question is like setting up visibility rules for these beacons and pop-ups. So sometimes, these beacons and pop-ups need not stay there for some predefined amount of time that like that we design. One example is that this beacon and pop-ups are like only information, the information that we give to the customers, what's new, and any other things that we wanted to tell the users. But we can't keep this beacons and pop-ups staying in the application every time. So in this perspective, we'll be able to set up a time when the specific beacons or pop-ups should appear and where it should appear. Okay. So to set these things, we have two tabs that will enable the user to enable as a writer to set a time when and where it should be available. Okay, so you can choose from various parameters based on your requirements. You see, like there are two tabs: the visibility rule, where you'll be able to select where the specific the pop-up should appear, and also you'll be able to choose the other options based on the selected parameter. And you can add multiple visibility rules using an and or operators as well. Okay. So when so that is one. The second part that defines is when. So this will tell like when or how long this pop-up or a beacon should appear in the application or the place that you have designed. Okay, so here again you have various parameters where you'll be able to start and stop based on your time and also on your requirement. On the right hand side, you'll be able to see the list of options that will be available. You can set up reoccurrences. You can set up when it should occur based on the time zone, when it should start and when it should end. Okay. All right. So this is SmartTip. So before I talk about SmartTip, this is one of the most important way where you could get cleaner data that I talked about in benefits. So SmartTips are that is again something you see every day in most of the application. It's called something like tooltips. These provide user with some static information for a field or an option. So one example, there are multiple examples that I'll be able to tell that you could accomplish with SmartTips is like one field level information. So with that, again, speak about the same example where customer has to fill out a form, and the customer is not sure about what kind of data to enter in a specific field. So in those cases, you'll be able to add a small pop-up kind of thing as you see next to the sales on the GIF. So this will enable the user to add relevant information in that field. And next is field level validations. So you'll be able to set up field level validations using WhatFix SmartTips, where you can restrict an user to enter only a specific type of information that we usually see. One example is like if it's a phone number, the field level validation can be set only to of a number, and also it could typically you could add one more rule saying that it should contain only 10 numbers. And other than that, you won't be. It will show an error message when you add an alphabet or any other string. That will be available for that we have set for a field validation. And you can also add some password requirements. When a user is trying to create a password for their application. So we have a lot of password requirements based on company, based on an organization. So you'll be able to list the number of requirements saying that like one specific letter should be a capital, and you should add a number and a symbol. All this information can be also added using the SmartTips. So the next thing is going to be content deployment. Yes. So we have created this content, and like how do we get this content across to the customers? So you will be using, there is a small dashboard, there is a dashboard for WhatFix where the entire content that you have created will be there, and you will be able to pick the number of content that you want to deliver to the customers in a very just in a single click. So once you're done doing content, so there is a button called as push production in the dashboard. So that all you need to do is click that button once you're ready for publishing the content, and this content will be delivered via CDN. So for WhatFix, the content is hosted on a cloud-based server. So of like the WhatFix will choose a specific server based on their needs and their choice, and our content will be hosted in their cloud-based services, and the customers will be able to access this content. All right. So now let's take a quick look. So we've been talking about different types of content and like how it is available. So we are gonna take a quick look on how it actually looks on an application. So I've created a video for you guys to show that. So this is this is the example. So we'll consider this app. This app is something new. Nobody knows about this app. So so as soon as and you customer comes into this page, you will get this kind of an pop-up just to introduce what this application is. So they'll be able to see like what are the different things that you'll be able to do in this application in a pop-up. So this is how a pop-up will look. All right. So the pop-up will like keep scrolling, like you'll be able to scroll through the pop-up and see what's happening around. So and the next thing is going to be a beacon. So that would explain like what the specific what actually is new in this option, and you'll be able to click and see what the specific button or the specific feature would do, and what all it contains. And as soon as you click this, so also the visibility rule comes into the picture. When a user just clicks this beacon, and this pop-up would go off, and then it resets, uh, and all those information can be done. And next thing is going to be creating the task list. Can you see the task list is available on the right bottom corner, where there are two tasks that is assigned for an user. They have to complete it mandatory. So you can also set up more rules saying that these specific the user has to complete this training before getting the into the application hands-on. Okay, so here I'm going to use the same example here. So we talked about um, as in the example I showed you, like there are going to be two tasks that an end user has to complete, and this is going to be a sequential task. Once the task one is complete, they'll be able to access the task two. All right, so I'm gonna click the first task. So as soon as you click the first task, the flow will run like this, just like the one I've showed you in the GIF. So where you'll be able to see like what this. So and also one more thing that I wanted to mention is this is a walkthrough kind of an flow that we created, where the user won't do a work here, actual work here. They won't accomplish a task, but we'll be able to guide them through a different parts of the application which the customer should know about. So the first step, the user has to click N next, and then you'll be able to go to the next step. And similarly, you'll be able to go to step 3, 4. And when you click, it'll keep jumping to the last step, and you'll be able to complete walk a user or a customer using these digital adoption platform in a seamless way. Okay, so since we saw what are the types of content that we'll be able to create, and how to access the content, next thing is going to be like how it works. So DApp uses multiple unique identifiers in an application to process flows and other content to create an amazing user experience. The first thing is going to be app URL. So app URL is going to be one of the most primary identifier. As soon as when you select when you open up the WhatFix widget in your browser, the WhatFix the WhatFix will automatically pick the URL of the page that you are on, and the content will be delivered based on the URL. So next thing is going to be an integration script. So integration script is like a custom script that will be like deployed deployed along with your application, so that you don't miss out the seamless experience of the DApp. So the other one is UI elements. So UI elements, as you guys all know, it's just a clickable or a selectable UI elements. It could be a button, or it could be a feature that as that I showed you before while I was trying to create a flow, the blue boxes around the elements, the identifiable elements, and with that you'll be able to provide more context sensitive content as well. And there is much more something called as variables as well. So application variables are like it could be a module name or a version number of the application where you could use to segment or this or serve the context sensitive information. So one example that I could give you is like the variable is going to be different for different application versions. So if you want the specific content type that you created to be applicable in only one application variant, you'll be able to set those variables for a flow or any other content that is available that you have created, and that specific content will be available only for that application version. Um, and with this variable, you'll be able to segment content for different users as well, like for an administrator or a normal user or an analyst. So with and all these things. Okay. So yes. So next important thing we're gonna talk about is analytics. So we have created multiple content and we have been using that. So we have been the customers have been using it, but we don't know how much of an information. How much like how the task has been done, like how the training has been complete, like how what is the progress. So the analytics is like it will utilize every action that was performed by a customer in order to complete a task, or maybe the pop-ups, the self-help and list of searches, the smart tips, every type of content that was created using DApp and the customer has accessed this. Using that, you'll be able to get an user trends and the engagements specific for the application. So what do you get from analytics? So user engagement rates, right? You will be able to see like how many, the number of flows that user has accessed, how many times a specific user has accessed that content. And the next point is going to be user and behavior data. Like how with this point you'll be able to figure out when an user has exited a flow, or where the user has got stuck and he wasn't be able to move forward with the content, and he was not able to get the things done. And the third point is going to be the content completion rate and summary. So the summary would give you the number of flows that user were able to complete and the number of flows that broke or maybe that failed due to some reasons. And fourth point is going to be search metrics. So search metrics is the self-help widget will have a search bar where you can search for the task that you are looking for. With that, you'll be able to get things. These search terms are stored for us, and like they'll be able to tell you which are the search terms that were successful and there were some results shown for that, or which were the search terms that were not successful and where the customers were not able to find specific content for that search term. And next is going to be improvement fee metrics. So with all the data that is available, you'll have a very good knowledge of like where the users are getting stuck and where you can improve. And this specific metrics will let you know the improvement parts that you can create in the content that going forward. Like if you're going to deploy more content to the same application. So, and again, you'll be able to create, at the end of each flow, you will be able to collect feedback. So even with that feedback, you will be able to see like whether the flow was easy or not, or the user couldn't do some specific task. So they have a space where they can give feedback for that. Even with that, you will be able to make more improvements to the content that are that we're gonna give it to the customers. Okay. So with this, this is going to be a snapshot of like how an analytics page would look. So this is an overall summary. This is not specific to these data. Is not specific to the example that we saw. These are some real-time examples. Okay, so here you at the starting from the top, you'll be able to see how many unique users have viewed our content, and then like you see the unique user engagements, the number of users that have been engaged uniquely with the content, and if there like a lot of queries and where they're solved. And I've talked about the pop-ups, right? Like onboarding and guide use new users, like all those pop-ups, like how many times the pop-ups have shown for the customers, and number of people who have tried completing the tasks or training using the task list. And you could also see like how many times the flow has been played, how many times the specific smart tip has been shown, like and like how many smart tips are there actually, but how many times the smart tips have been accessed and shown to the customer, and number of beacons and analytics related to that, and also user actions. So now we're going to dive a little bit deeper on user engagement summary. So this is like a metrics based on, since when the content was delivered to the customer, and it's going to give you a timeline of a number of engagements that has been like completely done at a certain point of time. So you'll be able to hover over this graph and get the specific data that is related to that timeline. So the timeline that I've selected, so the user engagement is like only 25, where the self help was accessed 9 times and task list was accessed 12 times, and the smart tip was accessed 4 times for the specific time period. Okay, so next we can similarly we'll be able to see analytics for flows, like flows where again it's going to be the same. You will be able to pick up a timeline, and you'll be able to see like what kind of how many flows have been used based on a day and a date on a graph. So this is a summary report of the flows. So we are getting more detailed into a flow usage and flow metrics. So here I have listed a couple of, like 4 flows, like, and also you'll be able to see how many times each of the flow has been played and whether the flow has been completed or not, the number of times the flow has failed. And this exited means like people have accessed the flow, but they haven't completed the entire flow. They've exited somewhere in the middle at like, for example, you say the flow has 5 steps. The user has exited the flow in the second step, or maybe before the 5th. Okay. And
Arun, just a quick reminder about the time. We have
yes, we're
yeah.
almost done. Sorry. Okay, so that is going to be the detailed flow summary. So the last part is about limitations. So every app comes up with limitations. Yes, we're going to talk about that. So limitations are like there are some unacceptable UI experiences when there are UI changes to the application. So this is something most DApp users always like talk about. So you have an application version 1 and you are upgrading to application version 2. So there are going to be a lot of new UI changes and all those things. So with that, when you try to migrate content from application 1 to application 2, the content won't work seamlessly. So that is a problem with the DAP. So based on point 1, so we also need to do an app analysis where a WhatFix or the third-party vendor that you choose would enable you to do the application analysis, and then they will give you a different algorithm, and then with that you'll have to create a new flows in the application the new version of the application. So this would also never replace the traditional documentation. You can't give too much of information in the pop-ups that we saw, right? So there should be always a traditional documentation that we could use to refer more information about a specific feature. So with this, you'll be able to only walk through customers and give like a basic information to get started with. But when you want to when you dive deeper into the feature to learn more, That's where this thing comes from. You'll be able to link the actual documentation where the user or the customer could learn more about the specific feature. And the last part is trusting DApp as a third party for your application. So this is another question everyone has. Like, what about information security? What it is like, you're giving access to our company's application, um, to a third party where they'll be able to uh, where they're going to analyze your application, and what if there is going to be a data leak or something of that. Okay, so with that, I think we are at the end of the session, and let's go ahead with questions.
Yeah, so Arun, thank you so much. Can you, okay, someone's mic is on unmute. Can you please mute your mics, please? Yeah. Thank you so much, Arun. So I'm so sorry, in the interest of time, like most of the questions have been answered by Mrudula and Shrutika, but for the rest of the questions, we will be addressing them in the email or the Telegram group. I'm so sorry because you spill over the session.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Arun. It was a very insightful session. We are now gonna proceed with the contest part of it. Just